Hey everybody. Today, we're going to be looking at all the albums that I've heard that have come out this year, and I'm going to be ranking them. This year has been a fantastic year for music. I've been venturing out a lot. I've been trying to find a bunch of new stuff, and it's been a very rewarding experience in doing that, with a ton of great albums. Two things I want to say before I get started. One, as I always like to preface with these videos, this is just my opinion. Two, the albums that I have more to say about, I'm going to talk more about. So some of these albums I might just breeze over, might just place in a certain spot, and that's just how it's going to be, I guess. So yeah, let's just do this. I'm very excited. It's going to be fun to kind of reflect over this year, because there's so much that's come out this year. Oh my god. First one we got here is Time Skiffs by Animal Collective. Still love this thing. I did a whole reaction on this. I think it's great. It still holds up. Feelings haven't really changed. I still think it's a great album. So I'm just going to plop it in the 8 out of 10 category. It's awesome. Foxtails with their album Fawn. I am a big fan of this one. I've been replaying this one quite a bit. I'm going to put it at a very solid 8. I love the screamy vocals. I love the really intense instrumentation. And I love the violin. It's a very specific sound, and it doesn't venture away from that sound too much. But the thing is that I really like that sound. So yeah, I'm a big fan. Great album. Ooh, yes. The Smile. A light for attracting attention. Anything that Tom York is involved in, I'm gonna have pretty high hopes and expectations for, and I really do think that this album is great. Yeah, it's not as conceptually tight. Yeah, it's not as, mind-blowingly beautiful as, some of the best Radiohead albums. But what I really like about this album is that I feel like a lot of the songs on here are just Tom and Johnny, and I forgot the drummer's name. I apologize, because he's a huge part of this record, but they all just are just getting out ideas. They're all writing songs that they're more groovy, really tight musically, and just a little more fun. I don't know. I get the vibe that it's just a lot more jammy. I really like it. I'm gonna put it at a high 8. I am really excited for when the next Radiohead album happens. I don't know when that will happen. I know, I think Ed said that it's going to happen at some point, but who knows when that'll be, because it's already been 6 years since A Moonshaped Pool. That's crazy. Perfume Genius with Ugly Season. I wasn't as big of a fan as this one as some people were. I know that there are a handful of people that really, really enjoyed this, and I definitely liked it. I think that there are some ideas that were a little too abstract for me. I don't even know if I want to put it like that, but just some ideas that didn't fully connect with me. But there's still some really, really great production and some really great tracks on here, like Pop Song. So I'm going to put it at a very solid 7 out of 10. Fear of the Dawn by Jack White. I think this is one of his best albums, just straight up. I just, for some reason, like a lot of what he does here. It feels like a mix of his more experimental stuff from Boarding House Reach and some of his more classic roots from the White Stripes and his earlier solo stuff. I just think he mixes it really well, and there are a lot of just really fun tracks on here. Heidi Ho is a banger. Taking Me Back is a banger. Eusophobia is a banger. Shedding My Velvet is one of the more emotional tracks that really, really hits hard for me. I love that one. Just a lot of good stuff going on in this record, so I'm going to give it a very solid 8. Put it right here. Asphalt Meadows by Death Cab for Cutie. I'm a big fan of Death Cab and their earlier stuff, especially, like Transatlanticism, stuff like that. I think that this is one of the better, more recent Death Cab albums. They just do what they're good at, you know? They make some very catchy, emotional indie bangers, you know? Courting with Guitar Music. It's not my favorite album of the year or anything, but tons of really catchy, just great tracks. And this band came out of the Windmill scene, which is where Black Midi, Black Country New Road, and I believe Squid have all come out of. I feel like these guys have a ton of potential for a really, really good album in the future. I'm super excited to see where they go. I really like the songs Famous, Loaded, and Tennis. Those are probably my favorites on the album. I love myself some good post-punk, so yeah, solid 8. Maybe on the lower side of the 8s, but still, I really return to a lot of the tracks on here. Everything Was Beautiful by Spiritualized. I feel like with this album, it's very, very much in the shadow of Ladies and Gentlemen, We're Floating in Space. So I don't know. Some of the songs don't fully click with me as much because of, maybe not because of that, but it just, I don't know. It doesn't really differentiate itself. It's a very pretty listen, but it's not something I return to all that often. Put it at a lower 7, but it's still a good album. Horseshit on Route 66 by The Garden. This is a fun-ass album This is like the most punk album they've made so far, which is kind of saying a lot. It's not my favorite album by them, but I think there are a ton of bangers, and just it's like, I don't know, they really just boosted the shit out of the bass this time around. The title track is probably my favorite song on the album. Also the song What Else Could I Be But a Jester. If you like punk at all, or just some weird, fun, I don't know, over the top music, I don't know, I'd recommend it. I'd give it like a low 8. Very, very fun album. I return to a couple of songs on here quite a bit. Asian Glow, Stalled Flutes Means. This is one of my favorite albums of the year, and I feel like it's quite a bit of an underdog. 9 out of 10. This is one of those albums, if you just really like the sound going into it, you're going to like the whole thing, because the whole thing has a very specific sound. It's very shoegazy and pretty lo-fi, but I feel like it uses the lo-fi elements in a very cool way. This just sounds like a very nightimey drive sort of album for me. It's something I can just get lost in. The track, Look Close, Knows the Reflection, is one of my favorite songs of the year. If you were to check out one song from this album, I would say to check out that one, because it's beautiful, and it's also just really impressive. It's a longer track. It's 9 minutes, but it does a lot in that 9 minutes. Very, very good album. I highly recommend it if you haven't heard of it. Here's a bit of an overlooked album that I feel like a lot of people haven't talked about this year. Anywhere But Here by Sorry. I'm just the kind of person, if you give me some catchy indie rock, I'm gonna like it, and that's exactly what this album is. It's not breaking the boundaries, it's not going crazy, but just the hooks on this album, the quality just doesn't really drop. It's just a very nice listen front to back. The song Screaming in the Rain is one of my favorite songs of the year for sure. I've really grown to like this one. I've been playing it a lot. I've been playing a lot of the songs on it a lot. I highly recommend it if you like indie rock. I'm going to put it probably right here. Yeah. We're Not Here to Be Loved by Fleshwater. A lot of the bands that try to recreate this Deftones-y sort of alt-metal shoegazy sound sometimes fall flat for me, but I think that this band does it really well, and it doesn't just feel like a complete ripoff, you know? It has their own sort of thing going for it. I really like the closer track. That's the one song that really, really stuck out to me on here, but it's still a very good full album. I put it at a high 7. Magic Hour by Surf Curse. Anything that Nick Radigan does, I probably will like. He's so emotional with his lyrics, and just the emotion just really connects with me for some reason. He also released, under the name Current Joys, one of my favorite albums of last year, Voyager. But this year, he teamed up with his other band, Surf Curse, that he's had for a long time, and he released Magic Hour. And I think it's probably the best Surf Curse album, and I know a lot of people probably wouldn't agree with me on that, but for me, it just really clicks. I like that they try and branch out a little bit and try some new things. The song Unwell is amazing. TVI, Sugar, No Tomorrows is beautiful. It's not for everyone, and I understand if some people would rate it a lot lower than me, but I'd put it probably right here. I also saw them live this year, and they were really, really good live, so that also kind of made me appreciate the album a little more. The Unraveling of Pup the Band by Pup. This is a fun album. I enjoy it. The last song on the album, Pup the Band is Filing for Bankruptcy, I think it easily wipes the board in terms of the rest of the album. I think it's their best song, probably, maybe? I just think that song specifically hits really hard, but the whole album's still pretty good. I put it right here. W by Boris. I don't have too much to say about this one. It's pretty ambient, I guess, and post-rocky, maybe a little droney. There's some cool ideas on here, but it's not really something I return to all that much. So I'd put it in like the 6 out of 10 range. Okay, we're gonna do all of the King Gizzard stuff together, because they released 4 freaking albums this year, of course. Starting with Laminated Denim, I think it's my favorite album of the ones they've released this year. The jammy sort of nature, for some reason, just works the most for me with this album, because I feel like it never runs out of cool ideas or cool guitar licks. Just for me, I don't know, there's something a little bit more catchy and fun about it. I feel like some of the other albums they released this year were a little bit more challenging to get through, but this one just feels, it's a little bit more short, it's a little bit more concise. I like it a little more. I think I'd put it right about here. Omnium Gatherum. I feel like a lot of people would call this their opus album in a way, because it compiles a lot of the ideas from a lot of their albums, mixes a lot of different sounds. Well, I can definitely see that. There are some sounds that don't work for me on certain parts, but overall, there are some great, great tracks. The Dripping Tap obviously is crazy. Magenta Mountain, Kepler 22b, Gaia for being super heavy. It's a fun album. Oh, I cannot go without mentioning the Ambrose rap songs. There's like the Grim Reaper, I think. It's just like a hip hop banger, and I love it. And I was really hoping Changes would be a hip hop album. Like, does this not look like a hip hop album cover, you know? And it wasn't, and it's okay, but I'm slightly disappointed. But yeah, this is a very good record. I'd put it at a high 7. Changes, I think I like a slightly more than Omnium Gatherum. I'll put it right above it. I just think this album's pretty fun. It's a lot more groovy. I feel like through most of these albums, they have their jam songs. Like this one has the title track, which is the big jam song on the album. But there are tons of other great tracks on here, and I like the vibe. Gandhi and AstroTurf are probably my favorite tracks on this one. And then finally, Ice Death, Magma, Lava, Mushroom, something, Death. It's probably my least favorite of the Gizzard albums this year, but I still think it's pretty solid. Put it about right here, I think. Some really cool ideas and some absolutely fantastic songs like Iron Lung and Ice 5. I feel like the jams on this album are a little more tedious to get through for me, but I still totally get the appeal. I totally can see why people like this one. So yeah, pretty cool record. Okay, A Foul Form by OCs. This one didn't really do too much for me. I don't know if I'm alone in saying that. It's like right here for me. I feel like just for this album, they replace a lot of the more interesting songwriting that OCs have for more just out there weird punk. Or I don't even know if it's punk. It's like noise rock kinda, but not even. I don't know, it's a little strange for me, and I just don't really click with it that much. I don't think it's bad, I would never really return to it. Nulafirianya, I believe is how you say it. I probably butchered that, I'm sorry if I did. With the album Painless. I've been replaying a lot of the songs on this album throughout the year. It's great. High 7. I'd even border 8 for sure. There are just some bangers on here, and not only are there bangers, but there are also some very pretty songs. I think her voice is great. I think the songwriting is pretty interesting. It's an indie rock album with some post-punk influence even, and just there's a lot of cool stuff going on here. The Dealer is amazing. I love that track. I've been playing that one a ton. Try is beautiful. Left Right is good. It's just a good-ass album. I really like this one. Formentura by Metric. I grew up with Metric. My dad has shown me a lot for Metric, and I really like them. The title track is great. I don't think I'd really return to as much, even though it still is a very pleasant listen. It's just some solid Metric. Nothing to go crazy about personally, but I like it. I put it right here. Night Gnomes by Psychedelic Porn Crumpets. I don't think this is the best Psychedelic Porn Crumpets album, but there's a very consistent vibe on here, and there are some bangers. I put it like right here. Actually, right, yeah, there you go. My favorite song is the first track. I think it's Terminus the Crater. That one's really cool. Very interesting intro and very cool vibe as it builds. Solid album. Oh, Hellfire by Black Midi. Oh my god. 10 out of 10, man. Oh my god. I love this album. I cannot get enough of it. I totally regret not doing a reaction to this album because it is one of my favorite albums of the year. There's one album I like better that I will get to, but still easily one of my favorite albums of the year. Ever since they dropped the single Welcome to Hell, I was so incredibly excited to see what they had in store with this third album, and it turned out just so good. I love the fast-paced riffs. I love the weird vocals. The storytelling is awesome. There's not a single dull moment for me on this album, and I just love it. I can't get enough of it. I can totally understand if it's not your thing or if it's not everyone's thing, you know. But I really enjoy the chaotic energy. I love loud, crazy music, you know. So it just does so much for me. I gotta go through some of the tracks here. Sugar Sue, insane riff, one of the craziest riffs I've ever heard. 27 Questions is probably my favorite song on the album, and it is one of the coolest outros I've ever heard. Also, one thing I really like about this album is it doesn't take itself too seriously, because that's when it can get a little weird for me sometimes, but just there's a lot of really funny remarks and references and everything on this album, and that kind of I don't know. It gives it more charm. I know I said I like the story, but there's also a really cool concept about how in each one of the tracks someone dies and gets sent to hell. It's just so cool. Like I love it. I love it. Cannot get enough of it. I think it's the best Black Midi album so far, and I'm very, very excited to see where they go after this. Wilderness of Mirrors by the Black Angels. I like the Black Angels, but this one didn't really do much for me. It just kind of felt a little bit bloated and something that I just wouldn't really return to all that much. About a 6 out of 10. Too Much to Ask by Cheekface. I found out about Cheekface randomly a while ago from Spotify recommending me stuff, and this album I checked out because, I don't know, it came out and I was like, oh, I know those guys. It's a pretty charming album. Like, it's fun. I can totally see the appeal to Cheekface, and it's not something I come back to all the time, but it's funny. It's a good time. The Car by the Arctic Monkeys. I'm a very, very big Arctic Monkeys fan, and I was a bit underwhelmed with this one. Yeah, like, the only other Arctic Monkeys albums I'm not the biggest fan of are, like, Suck It and See and maybe AM, but I even like a lot of the songs on AM, so I don't know. But this one, it's just, it feels like Tranquility-based Hotel and Casino, but worse to me. I feel like they up the production, but lose a lot of the really interesting songwriting that kind of captured me on that album. It's still not a bad album, and I like the singles mainly, but I really wouldn't return to it much outside of that. Give it like a high 6 out of 10. Also, come on, The Car, really? You literally couldn't have picked a more bland album name and album cover. Like, what? Sorry, I just had to throw that in there. From 2 to 3 by Peach Pit. Pretty good indie rock album. That's about all I have to say. I think the song is Up on Granville, I believe. That's the one song I like quite a bit on this one, but besides that, nah. It's okay. Put it right here. Watch My Moves by Kurt Vile. I actually had pretty high hopes for this one going into it because I like Kurt Vile, and there was one single, or a couple singles that I liked. Like Exploding Stones was the lead single, and then Hey Like a Child was the second one. And I like both those songs a lot. I also do want to mention the song Mount Airy Hill. I think that is the best song on this album. It's beautiful. I used to go on walks listening to it earlier in the year. It was great. And then the album dropped, and I was kind of underwhelmed. Don't get me wrong, there's some great songs on here, but the album is just way too long. Like, it does not need to be, I think, like 50 minutes to an hour. So I'd put it about right here. Alpha Games by Block Party. I like Block Party. I like Silent Alarm. I'm not, like, the biggest fan of it, but I like it. And this album just really not doing it for me. It's 4 out of 10. I'm sorry. I just don't think the vocals are too good, and I think some of the songs are either cringe-inducing or a little corny, a little cheesy. Again, totally understand if you like it, you know. That's just how I feel, but it's not really doing it for me. Labyrinthitis, I think that's how you say it. Labyrinthitis by Destroyer. I really like Kaput by Destroyer, and this album's pretty good. It's not super memorable to me, but I think it's a very nice time overall with some very good production. I put it right here. Arrangements by Preoccupations. Post-punk band I randomly found, and I like post-punk, so I was like, hey, let's give it a shot. It's pretty good. I like quite a few songs on here. The song Ricochet, I believe, is the one that really stands out. It's pretty good. Not something I return to as much, but it's definitely a solid listen. Pre-Pleasure by Julia Jacklin. Very nice singer-songwriter, indie rock, indie pop sort of thing going on here. It's just a pleasant listen. Don't have too much to say about this one, but it's a good time. I like the vocals a lot. She has a very nice voice. Raw Data Feel by Everything Everything. I recently checked out their most acclaimed album. It's this one. I'll put it on screen. It's that one. I didn't really like that album as much as some people do, but I still enjoyed it, and that's kind of how I feel with this one. I like it about the same. There's some really nice tracks. I remember the first song being very good. Still a good time overall, though, for sure. Put it about right here. Endure by Special Interest. Post-punk. I wanted to check it out. And this is the one post-punk album that I've heard this year that hasn't really clicked with me that much. I don't know, the songwriting just isn't doing it for me. I really like the last couple of tracks, though. I think that is the highlight of the album, and that's what saves it a bit for me. But still, I'd put it about right here. Entering Heaven Alive by Jack White. This was the second album he released this year, and I think it's quite a bit underwhelming comparing it to Fear of the Dawn. I think Jack White said he was going to make this a double album, and I'm really glad he didn't because that would have weighed down the experience of Fear of the Dawn for me. But I don't know. There's a couple good songs on here, like I've Got You Surrounded with My Love. But I mean, it's fine. Like, it's pretty good. It's nice background music for me at most, I guess. I like a lot of his acoustic stuff, but it just doesn't really stand out to me as much here on this record. Blood by Stella Donnelly. Pretty good art pop album. It's nice. I like the song Lungs. I think that's the best song on the album. Will of the People by Muse. Oh my god, there's been a lot of talk about this album this year. Okay, yeah, I'm in the majority of people that think this album is not that good. I'd put it at a 4 out of 10. It sucks because I am a Muse fan. Like, I grew up with Muse. I love Muse. I think their first, 5 records are all great. It just, with Simulation Theory, I think they just started going to... I mean, even with, Drones and The Second Law, something happened, but with this one specifically, it just feels so aimless, and it feels like they're preaching about nothing, you know? They're all like, yeah, let's fight the government, and then they just make it super broad and very unspecific. It just doesn't feel genuine. It just feels very surface level lyrically, and it also doesn't really help that a lot of the songs are very either cheesy or don't do anything that special. I think the one song on here that is pretty tolerable is Kill or Be Killed, but the rest of the album I don't think I'd ever really come back to. Sad to say, but yeah, I'm not the biggest fan of this Muse record. Everything is Great by Band of Horses. I love this band. I grew up with this band. If you like indie rock, I highly recommend their first 2 records. I think this is the best Band of Horses records since their first 2 albums. They just capture that same sort of beautiful feeling. It's a very uplifting album for the most part. The song In Need of Repair is one of my favorite songs of theirs, at least recently of their output. It's a really nice record. I like it. God Save the Animals by Alex G. I've recently become a pretty big fan of Alex G, and I can say that I really enjoy this one. Not all of the experiments pay off for me in some scenarios, but most of them do. I think this is definitely one of the more unique Alex G records, and I come back to a lot of the songs on here, like Runner, After All, the song Blessing, which is super weird, and it was the lead single, and it confused the hell out of me when I first heard it, but I really like it now. Every day is a blessing. Yeah, it's a good record. It's a good time. 8 out of 10 for me. Okay, Prince Daddy and the Hyena with their self-titled record. One of my best friends is a huge fan of Prince Daddy and the Hyena, but I actually really like this one. This is a very good album. It's definitely warmed up to me, and I've heard it a lot this year because of my friend. He would not shut up about it. I mean that with all the love in the world. There's some very emotional tracks on here, some very fun tracks on here, some very heavy tracks on here. You really get the full batch of what Prince Daddy is about on this one. The song Hollow As You Figured is freaking insane. The riff on that thing, Jesus fucking Christ, is catchy, super fun. Black Mold is probably the most emotional thing this band has ever done. It's a great record. I really like it. Mom Jeans with Sweet Tooth. I do not really care about this record that much. It's fine, you know. I used to like Mom Jeans quite a bit, and they've kind of grown off of me as a band, and their new record kind of reinforced that for me. Just the cheesy nature really started to bleed through a lot on this one. So yeah, not my favorite. Classic Objects by Jenny Haval. I think this is a bit of an underrated record this year. I really thought that some of the art pop on here was very nice. The song Jupiter is super awesome. I love the ambience at the end. I just think it's a consistent listen with great vocals, great production, a lot of cool stuff going on here. Solid 8 out of 10. Yeah Yeahs are finally back with Cool It Down, which I think is a very solid record. Really great production, a lot of great catchy songs. The opener, I think, Spitting Off the Edge of the World, that song is awesome, and I think it might be their best song. I also really love the song Woof, super catchy. It's definitely a good one. I'm a fan. Put it right here. Unlimited Love by Red Hot Chili Peppers. This album is so weird. What is this album? I didn't even check out the other Red Hot Chili Peppers album this year because I heard this and I did not want to. It's just so long for no reason, and it feels like Anthony Kiedis is just pulling up a random word generator and then spitting it into the mic. Like, does someone want to tell me what the song Aquatic Mouth Dance means? What? Also the song White Braids and Pillow Chair? Like, what is this dude talking about? I wouldn't say it's necessarily a bad album. I just would literally never return to it ever, personally. Together by Duster. I'm a huge Duster fan. Huge Duster fan. So I'm really excited that they're still making music. And yeah, this is pretty good. I obviously still think Stratosphere is like the pinnacle of their songwriting and everything, and I mean that's one of my favorite albums ever at this point, but this is still good. And I really like the song Escalator. I think that one is the best song on the album. Feels pretty good right here. I Don't Know Who Needs to Hear This by Tomberlin. Tomberlin? I think so. This is a record I just stumbled across, and I appreciate it, but it's not something I come back to all that much. I really like the sentiment of the album more than I'd actually return to the sonical value of the album, if that makes sense. Still a nice listen, though. Viva Las Vengeance by Panic at the Disco. No. Sorry. There's just so many things that I don't like about that. I mean, I already am just not a big fan of Panic in the first place. I don't even know why I really checked out this album. I think I was just curious. And yeah, I just... ugh. The vocals... No. The song titles. There's a song on here called Star Spangled Banger. Do I need to say anything else? All of Us Flames by Ezra Furman. Some really beautiful stuff going on with this record. I think that they're standout tracks for sure, even though the whole album isn't super consistent. The song Train Comes Through and also Come Close. Both those songs are phenomenal. Pretty underrated album. Or not, maybe not underrated, but just overlooked, I feel like. Haven't heard a lot of people talk about it. Still pretty good, though. I'd put it right here. When the Wind Forgets Your Name by Built to Spill. I am a huge Built to Spill fan. I love their stuff. I love their music. This new album, initially with the singles, I wasn't really feeling it at all. But I think after hearing the album, I appreciate them a little bit more, and it's a good listen. I still think their earlier stuff is easily, like, their best, but I like this one. You Belong There by Daniel Rosen. Very pretty indie folk record. I like it. Again, not something I return to all that much, but it's still a very pleasant listen. I like the vocals a lot on here, and the production is very warm and nice. It's a good listen, for sure. It's a nice one. I'll put it right here. A lot of 7 out of 10s. Wow. It's a lot of 7 out of 10s. I feel like there's going to be some more of those, including this next one. Versions of Modern Performance by Horse Girl. Checked it out because it's indie rock and it's pretty cool. There's some shoegazy elements here too. It's an enjoyable one for sure. I'd put it right here. The song Billy is my favorite one on here for sure. Sometimes Forever by Soccer Mommy. This one was a little underwhelming for me. I heard quite a few people talk about it in pretty high regards, and I mean I like it, I enjoy it, but I feel like it gets a little one note sometimes, to the point to where a lot of the songs bleed together, not in the best way. The shoegaze undertone to it is nice, but I just don't really see it as something that stands out as much. So yeah, about a 6 out of 10 for me. Freak Out Release by Hot Chip. This record I heard at a time in my life where I actually really needed it. It's not the best album ever, you know, or the best album of the year, really, but there's a lot of fun songs on here. There's a lot of groovy tracks, a lot of memorable songs, and I can appreciate it. I can appreciate hearing it at a time when I needed to hear it. So yeah, I like it. Put it right here. Florist, self-titled. Beautiful album. Beautiful. I love this thing. It is gorgeous. I love just the rainy day vibes. Like, I want to just go out in the middle of a forest, sit down and listen to this thing. I love all the interludes, the little like soft moments. I think there's even a song where there's like rain pouring in the background. I just love the aesthetic to it. I love the atmosphere. It's super awesome. I need more records like this one. Put it right here. Sci-Fi Science and Dandelion are my two favorite songs on this one. The Mars Volta with their self-titled record. Been a while since they put out an album. I am a pretty big Mars Volta fan though. I think their album Francis the Mute is amazing. Recently I've been getting into them a little bit more, and kind of a disappointing comeback, not gonna lie. I'd put it right here, about a 5 out of 10. I don't really know what they're doing on this one. It doesn't even feel like the same band, you know, it feels a lot more watered down, a lot less memorable to me. So kind of sad to say, but I still appreciate that they returned, you know. Emotional Eternal by Melody's Echo Chamber. It's a nice listen. It's just very pleasant to the ears. I like what Melody Echo Chamber has going on here. I really like a couple of her past records. So I was pretty excited for this, and I mean, it's not as good as those for me, but I still think it's pretty solid. Till the Stream Runs Dry by Opus Kink. I don't know why people aren't talking about this band more, because this EP is awesome. Love this thing. One of my friends recommended it to me, and it's so good. It's great. I'm gonna put it right here. It's post-punk, but with like a tinge of ska in a way. Like, I maybe not ska, but just like those horns and stuff that sound kind of ska-like. It's super dancey, super fun. I love it a lot. I highly recommend it if you like post-punk. Stumpwork by Dry Cleaning. This is one of the post-punk bands that I haven't really got. You know, I don't really understand it that much. I just think the spoken word things gets a little repetitive, even though there are some cool instrumentals on here. It's a pretty good album, but nothing I'd really come back to. And also, I hate the album cover. Oh my god. Expert in a Dying Field by the Beths. I have a couple friends that really like the Beths, and this album's it's a very solid indie rock record. Yeah, it's just a couple of bangers, couple emotional tracks. I love the song 2 a.m. Silence is Golden is great. It's a good album for sure. Like it a lot. The Midnight Demon Club by Highly Suspect. What a weird name. I don't know if I want to join this demon club. I don't know. It's fine. It's okay. Put it right here. It kind of sucks putting it at a 5 out of 10 for me, because I have a very strong connection with this band. Like, I grew up hearing some of their first albums. It just kind of sucks that, like, I don't know what they're doing. Like, I mean, it's definitely a step up from their last record, which was MCID, and I think that one was just all over the place. But I mean, there's a couple of songs that I think are pretty good, but I don't really know what they're doing. Blue Rev by Always. A lot of people were talking about this one this year, and I totally understand why. It's an awesome record. I put it right here, and I don't know. I think that the shoegazy, more dream poppy, or not dream pop, like indie pop sound, which works really well. It's a good time. I think that there's a lot of really good production, great songs, catchy hooks. Totally see why people like it. Okay, we're getting there. Have we even gotten to that many hip hop? Have we even talked about a single hip hop record? Are you serious? Where are all my hip hop records? Why are they all at the bottom? Okay, you know, we're gonna do a hip hop record right now. Let's do Cheat Codes. I checked this album out like, I think 4 or 5 days ago, and I was missing out this entire year on this good of an album. Are you kidding? High 8 out of 10. It's one of my favorite albums of the year. I love it. This record feels like a callback to early 2000s, 90s hip hop, like with MF Doom and stuff like that. I mean, MF Doom is even on this album as a posthumous feature. But just the beats, the flows, the features it's just all great. It's all there. It's awesome. I love it. My favorite song on here has to be Aquamarine. It's just so good. Like it's like a top tier hip hop song. I love the song because with a really catchy vocal melody, and also just love all the features on it. Belize with Doom on it is great. Just tons of great tracks. An album that I could listen to front to back and say that there is not a single song that dips in quality or is bad. Just consistently great across the board. So yeah. Very, very awesome record. Super glad I didn't miss out on it. Devil for the Fire by Wunderbar. For some reason, they put Alien Blues on here twice. I don't like that, because I think they're just capitalizing off the song's popularity, which is fine, I guess, but doesn't need to be on here twice. Still a good record, though. I like the title track a lot, so yeah. Put it right here. Chaos Now by Gene Dawson. This one did not do it for me. I'm sorry. I know there were quite a few people who enjoyed this one, but I think the vocal, I just cannot get behind the vocals at all. I really tried, but I just not for me. There are some cool ideas on here. There are some really cool ideas, even some good melodies, but just the performance of the vocals and sometimes the production, I just can't really do it. It's not for me. Tell Me When It's Over by Wallows. Indie band that I kind of like. I haven't really heard too much outside of this one album. I think there's one song on another album I've heard that was pretty good. But I mean, it's a fine listen. There's some good songs, but I think the last song easily is the best part of the album. Guitar Search Romantic Adventure, I'm pretty sure is what it's called. I'm gonna put it right here. That song is great. I think it's easily the best song on the album. The rest of the album, just don't care about it that much. Reset by Panda Bear. I mean, I like Panda Bear because he's a part of Animal Collective. I haven't heard any of his solo stuff until this album, and it's pretty good. I think that there are some ideas here that don't really work all too well. There also are a couple of very good songs, though. I'm interested to check out Person Pitch. I will do that at some point. I know a lot of people wanted me to do that album. I will react to it at some point. Yard Act with the Overload. A couple of fun songs in here. I like the song Pour Another, but as a whole album, just don't really come back to it as much. That's about all I have to say. What Leg with their self-titled record. This is a fun group. I've actually warmed up to this record quite a bit. I think it's pretty good. I'd say right here. It's funny. It doesn't take itself seriously at all. It's just a good time. Like that's what I like about it. The song Your Mum is really funny and catchy as hell. Wet Dream is also pretty funny. I don't know. There's a lot of charm to it. I'm actually kind of excited to see where they go next. The Dream by Alt J. We're getting there. I like Alt J and I like the first song on this album, but the rest of this album just does nothing for me. Like, I don't know. Put it right here. Most Normal by Gillaband? Or it was Girl Band, but now it's Gillaband. Right here. I think that Gillaband, I've checked out their entire discography as of now, and they are a very hit or miss band for me. There are some songs that I think are genuinely incredible, and then I think there are some songs that are just so abstract and out there that I just cannot get into it. I do think that this is their best album, though. The experimentation, that this thing is loud. This thing will blow your freaking ears out. I feel like I almost got hearing damage from this. I had to turn it down when I was listening to it for the first time. Like, listen to the opener of this album and tell me you do not get a headache. But yeah, I mean, the closer, Post Ryan, is probably my favorite song on the album here. Also, if I were to recommend one song from this band, and you like noise rock, post-punk, stuff like that, the song Paul is incredible. I love it. It's definitely, I think, the best thing this band has done. It's not on this album, but it's very good. No Thank You by Little Sims. Little Sims is probably my favorite rapper, and just ever. I can't really, at least as of right now. It might change, who knows? But as of right now, she's my favorite rapper. Her album, Sometimes I Might Be Introvert last year, was one of my favorite albums of the year, and this year she delivers with another great set of tracks on this record. Put it right here. I've been returning this one a lot. It's just awesome. She just does such a great job. It never feels like she falters. She has such great flows. Her lyrics are beautiful, honestly, with how just thought-provoking, I guess they are, just impactful. She really knows what she's talking about. Heart on Fire made me cry the first time I heard it. Yeah, like, it's a beautiful album in a way. I mean, I know she had some problems with her label, I think, with this album. I don't know, and that's kind of what the album's about, at least partially. And also the song Silhouette. Oh my god, the backing vocals are god tier. Oh my god. Yeah, love this one. Love this one. Oh, also Broken. Need to mention that one. Alpha Zulu by Phoenix. I am a huge fan of their album Wolfgang Amadeus Phoenix from like the 2000s, and I have listened to all of their albums actually, just because I was curious, and I think that one's easily the best, and this record still is kind of in the more mediocre territory of their stuff for me. I put it like right here. It's not a bad record. There are a couple cool moments, but I just personally it just doesn't stand out that much to me, and that's just kind of the problem with some of the more later Phoenix albums. Diaspora Problems by Soulglow. This thing is fucking insane. What is this album? Right here. Very solid 8 out of 10. I love it. It's not something I can stomach all the time because of how absolutely insane this band is with not only their instrumentation, but goddamn this vocalist. He's on some shit. He goes crazy with the vocals on this album. It makes it such an intense experience. It's one of the most hard-hitting, again, unique punk albums I've heard in a long time. The closer spiritual level of gang shit is awesome. The song Driponomics is almost kind of a guilty pleasure for me because it's not a song I feel like I'd like normally, but I kind of like it. I don't know, I just do. Gold Chain Punk is kind of hilarious. Jump or Get Jumped, that song is awesome. Yeah, I think it's a really good record and just super unique within the punk sort of stuff that has been coming out. Chloe in the Next 20th Century by Father John Misty. I think there's some really nice stuff going on in this album. I think that his other album, Pure Comedy, which is the only other album I've heard by him, but that album I think is quite a bit better. I still like a lot of the stuff going on here. The song, the title track, I guess kind of title track, Chloe. That song is awesome, probably my favorite on here. There's some cool stuff. It gets a little tedious sometimes, but still a very pleasant album overall with some very good highlights. Youngblood with his self-titled record, no, I'm sorry, just like it's on the same level of this new pop punk wave. I don't know what's going on. It's not that good. Not a fan of it personally. Pompeii by Kate LeBon. It's a nice pop record. I mean, that's really all I have to say about it. Don't really return to it all that much, but it's nice. Cave World by Viagra Boys. This is a fun-ass record. I like fun-ass records like this a lot. I'm going to put it right here. Viagra Boys are a group that I've been getting into a little bit more. I really like their album Streetworms. That's their first one. But this one is almost as good. Maybe just as good. I don't know. Maybe on some days. It's just so fun. Like, there's so many just bangers on here, but also songs that I can genuinely, like, laugh to while singing along with it, you know? Ain't No Thief, I think, is about how the protagonist stole like some jacket from this dude at a party like 20 years ago. It's super oddly specific and it sounds weird talking about it, but like listen to it and you'll understand. It's really funny. And then there's also the song Creepy Crawlers, which is so ironic to the point to where I just can't help but laugh. Baby Criminal is a banger. Return to Monkey is like a genuinely like crazy intense awesome song. So many great tracks on this one. I returned to it a bunch, and I'm excited to see where they go because they are a great group. They're fun as hell. Jockstrap with I Love You Jennifer B. The violinist of Black Country New Road is, I believe, the person behind Jockstrap, and it's great. It's awesome. Very solid 8 out of 10 for sure. The song Concrete Over Water is so beautiful. Oh my god, that song is incredible. I also love the song Glass Cow. Neon is one of my favorites. I've returned to that one a lot. Greatest Hits is great. I feel like they have a lot of potential going forward. I think they can do even better than this one, which is exciting. Heavy Rocks by Boris. This was the other Boris released this year, and it's better than W for sure. Still not something I'd really return to all that much though, so I'd put it at a lower 7 out of 10. Physical Thrills by Silver Sun Pickups. Big Silver Sun Pickups fan. Grew up with their stuff. I grew up with a lot of bands on this list. That's weird. But no, this album's pretty good. I'd put it, I'd say right here. I'm just glad they're still making music, you know, and also, yeah, the song We Won't Come Out, that song is my favorite on the album because it has a really cool tempo change. Still a pretty good album though, and again, I'm glad they're still making music. Decide by DJ O. I've had this thing on repeat a lot, honestly. It's a really catchy album, like really catchy. Doesn't really falter in quality either. It's a very good album. I'd put it right here. The song Change is great. Gloom is actually a really funny song. Go For It is probably my favorite song on the album. I love the more dancey sort of intense section at the end. Just it's super fun all around. And who knew the dude from Stranger Things could make this many bangers, you know? Oh my god, here it is. Here it is. This is the one. This is my album of the year. I wouldn't be surprised if it's my album of the decade. I mean, I did a whole video on this album, and I'm not going to go into it a crazy amount, but this album means a lot to me. It really, really does. It is one of my favorite albums ever now. Black Country New Road really, really achieved something that is it's just unbelievable. The amount of pure emotion, the amount of insanely good songwriting, the amount of passion with every single vocal performance, and just, I mean, all the other members of the band. Like, everything is just working at top-notch degrees, and I have returned to it a lot. I think The Place Where He's Inserted the Blade is my song of the year as well. That song does, like, oh my god. That song will get me to fucking cry my eyes out. It is so pretty. I genuinely don't think that song could be any more perfect. And I mean, Basketball Shoes, one of them, the ending of that song is some of the best. Some of the best shit I've ever heard in my life. Like, I know I'm just kind of freaking out about this album. You know, whatever. I just personally am very passionate for it. I just think it's a very special album. And yeah, it's my album of the year. Easily my album of the year. Even over Hellfire, and I love Hellfire, but Black Country New Road really, really did something so special. The Other Side of Make Believe by Interpol. It's a fine album. Interpol's done better though. with their first few albums, I'd say. Or it's pretty alright. Melt My Eyes, See Your Future by Denzel Curry. I'm actually going to do both versions because I have listened to the normal version and then also like the soul live band version. The normal version I'd give a solid 7 out of 10. I think it's a pretty good album by itself. I just do think that the live version is so much better. I put it right here. God damn, the fucking this version of the album. Again, like I totally appreciate the original and I liked it on first listening to it, but like everything is better, at least to me, from going from this to that, you know. The live band adds a whole new just level to this to me. Like it just feels a lot more natural, a lot more consistently memorable, a lot more sonically tight, you know. It's just, there's so much going on. It's super impressive and it's really good. It's really, really good. I love Melt Session on both versions. I love that song. I think it's one of my favorite hip hop songs of the year. Walkin' is great. The Ills, that song is awesome. Again, like the original, think this version takes it to a whole nother level. Weather Glow by Weather Day and Asian Glow. One of my favorite things to come out this year. Very high 8 out of 10. It's 6 songs, but those 6 songs are all so good, so consistently good. The song Melt My Bed, or Melt a Bed? I think it's Melt a Bed. That's one of my favorite songs of the year. Love the amount of change-ups, love the production, love the vocals. It's super catchy while also being super interesting. Center, that song is amazing. If you haven't heard anything from Asian Glow or Weather Day, or just that EP, you know, just give it a shot. I recommend it if you want. I think it's really, really good. Once Twice a Melody by Beach House. Beautiful album. I mean, it's Beach House. It's gonna be beautiful. It's gonna be awesome. I'm gonna like it. It goes right here. Saw them live earlier this year. One of the best things I've ever experienced. Not even gonna lie. If you ever get the chance to see Beach House live, do it. Do yourself a favor and do it. So many great tracks on this. New Romance, Over and Over, Modern Love Stories, Pink Funeral, Superstar, the title track. Yeah, just so many great ones. Love this one. And it doesn't drag for being a double album and being super long. I think it's just great. Oh, Skinty Fia by Fountains DC. I have totally grown to love this album. I liked it at first. Like, I enjoyed it a lot. But man, I've returned to it so much. I've returned to it a lot. Put it right here. Man, I love this album. It just took me a second to get used to the vocalist. Maybe it took a second to get used to the sound of everything, but once I did, it is just banger after banger, great post-punk song after great post-punk song. I Love You, How Cold Love Is, the title track. Oh my god, the beat on that title track goes so hard. Jackie Down the Line, the opener. Oh my god, just so many great songs. It's such a great album. Love, love, love it. And I highly recommend it if you haven't heard it and you like post-punk. Been recommending a lot of albums, but again, there's just a lot of great albums this year. Fossora by Bjork. I recently just listened to everything by Bjork, and I think that this album is pretty good, but I don't think it's her best. Put it right here. It's still a good album. I like the title track and Atopos. I think those are my 2 favorites. But I think Bjork has done much better than this album, personally. Still good, though. Dance Fever by Florence and the Machine. Solid album. Florence and the Machine, they're just great. They're beautiful. They have a lot of really nice stuff. Very pleasant to the ears. I like it. Laurel Hell by Mitski. I haven't heard too much else by Mitski, but this is a pretty good album. A couple good songs on it. I think the main standout for me is just the vocals. I think she has a very, very good voice. Dragon New Warm Mountain, I Love You by Big Thief. The whole year I heard people talking about this album. I heard so many people just praising the hell out of it for so long. And I never listened to it until like 2 days ago. I tried listening to this album earlier this year and I didn't immediately click with it, so I just didn't listen to it until now. But I'm really, really glad I decided to sit down and give this album my full attention and just get through the whole thing. Because even though I think that there are some songs that aren't as good as others, it is a very beautiful album, and it feels like just sitting around a campfire listening to some great folk songs. I'd put it probably right here at a high 7. I know some people would rank this as like their favorite album of the year, but it's still very good. Not quite my favorite, but still very, very good. I mean, the song Simulation Swarm is great, and I love the title track a lot. Both those songs are easily my favorites. Lucifer on the Sofa by Spoon. Spoon is one of my favorite bands, actually like top 3 probably favorite bands. They have such a special place in my heart for so many reasons. One of the most consistent indie rock bands, I think, and their new album is great. It's Spoon. It's going to be good. Give it a low 8 out of 10. I don't think it's their best album, but there's so many just bangers on this thing. I also saw them live this year, and it was one of the most special things I've experienced in a while, just because seeing a band that means that much to me live in front of me. Not to mention they were incredible live. So yeah, it was a great time, and yeah, they're an awesome band. And finally, oh my god, we made it. And In the Darkness, Hearts Aglow by Ways Blood. I genuinely might like this more than Titanic Rising. Maybe on some days it'll switch, but man, this is a good album. Oh my god, top 5 albums of the year. Actually, my third favorite album of the year, I guess. Beautiful. Cannot, like, it is just pure beauty to the finest extent. I don't know, like, it's just, her voice is so nice. The instrumentals are gorgeous. The textures are amazing. There's barely a dull moment on here. It's Not Me, It's Everybody is amazing. God Turned Me Into a Flower is breathtaking. I love this album, and I think Ways Blood is actually touring right now, and I'm gonna try and see her because I feel like I would ascend to another realm if I saw her live. So yeah, great record, and of course excited to see where she goes next because her last 2 records have been so good. And that's it. Oh my god, we made it to the end. If you stuck around to the end, thank you for watching. I don't know how long this video is going to be. I've been recording for like 2 hours. I hope you've enjoyed. I hope you've hopefully found some stuff maybe to listen to. I know I rambled a lot. If there's any albums I missed, please let me know. Again, I love hearing everything. I know I missed Jid's album, The Forever Story. I heard a lot of great things about that, so maybe I'll give that a listen at some point. But yeah, I'm done rambling. Again, thank you guys for watching. I'm going to get out some more reactions, hopefully, at some point. This year's been so awesome. I guess I'll see you guys next year. Yeah? This will be probably the last video I get out, if I can get it out in time. I will see you guys in the next one.